Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining another session of Hablemos. My name is Carolina Veira, and I'm here today to have a discussion about leadership, inclusion, purpose more than anything. And I'm happy to be hosting Dr. Patricia Delgado. Doctora, ¿cómo está? ¿Cómo le va?
Muy bien. Muy bien. Thank you so much, Carolina, for having me. I'm very excited to be part of this webinar and then also this talk. Yes, let's talk.
Let's talk. Yes, vamos a hablar. Vamos a tener una conversación. I would imagine there's so much to share, just because you are one of our few doctors out there in the field, particularly in industrial organizational. Is that what it is?
That's correct. Industrial organizational psychology. Mm-hmm.
There we go. So, because I remember the IO that you mentioned to me a few minutes earlier, and I was trying to remember the right term. So thank you so much for clarifying. But obviously, Doctora Patricia, Pati, you are the CEO and the founder of the Bridgify Group.
That's okay.
And I asked you before, where did the name, how did it come about? So share with me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so again, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and also to talk about my story and my business and to give any sort of information and reflection to the people that are listening. So I am the CEO of my organization. We are a research firm and we're called the Bridgify Group. So Bridgify, as Carolina and I were talking about before, is probably not a word, but it came out organically through our talks about what is really our purpose in our business. And it is to bridge research with practice. So we are practitioners. A lot of us who are out in the workplace are considered practitioners. Then there are scholars and academics who are the ones doing research. And so I bring both of those worlds together. And then we deliver tools, practical tools, applications, anything that organizations can use right now to better the concern that they're having or the issue that they're having. So yes, we are the Bridgify Group. We bridge research with practice.
And why research? Not everybody goes into research. It takes a lot of work, a lot of pain and suffering. So it is. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot of data that you need to verify and make sure that the data is good and correct and know what the right sources come about. So it's a lot of work. So what made you so interested in this field in particular, and then psychology?
Yeah, so I've been an IO for 20 some years. I've been in training and organizational development positions in the past. And when I started my doctoral degree, and of course you do a lot of research and you do a dissertation, I fell in love with the research part of the dissertation, just uncovering these nuggets of information that I would say, wow, if an organization just knew this, wow, it would take their decision-making to the next level. Or if leaders would just understand this about Hispanics, wow, they would be able to recruit and retain their Hispanic workforce better. And so in the research, yes, it's very tedious, but there is a lot of hidden information that people aren't utilizing in the corporate world. Now, in the academic world and in the healthcare world, research and studies are done all the time. Like we had COVID and there was a bunch of studies done on the COVID vaccine. This type of practice is natural in those worlds. But in the corporate world, if you are not a big, amazing company like Google or Apple, and if you're a smaller mid-size organization, you probably don't have someone at hand or in a department that does the research directly and does this translation. So our company is focused on those individuals and really also just trying to get people to understand there's different kinds of information, right? There's all this information that's hitting us all the time, but what part of it is opinion or what part of it is just information and what part of it is factual and evidence. And so that's another part of information that I educate my clients on is we can't believe everything we see on the internet or on the web. We have to really question, well, where did they get that information from? Is there some sort of concrete evidence that confirms its validity? And so that's the part about research that I think is amazing. I know it's kind of like a treasure hunt. I say, go
No,
do
and
treasure
it's
hunt.
and what you mentioned is so interesting, and it's so valid, especially nowadays when
Yeah.
we get so much information from different sources. You know, obviously everybody's familiar with social media. You have different platforms there, and they're not necessarily sharing the right information all the time, right?
Right,
And
right.
it's probably because there's so many people who have access to sharing information, and that's where you come in, right? That's how the validation takes place.
The credibility, right? Yeah, validating that what information is being put out there has been validated in some form or fashion when it comes to research evidence. And so, yeah, it's kind of scary how much information is out there, and it's okay to question the information that you are taking in. Where does it come from? Who are the people that are providing it? Is it just the person down the street, or is it a reputable company or research firm like Deloitte or McKinsey? So yeah, it's important that we all, I know it's not something we do all the time, but really start questioning, well, where am I getting this information? Especially if it's involving, like leaders and organizations, involving the way they're making decisions that are impacting their people or impacting their organization.
And that was going to be my next question. If you work directly with the CEOs of the different organizations, or because it sounds to me that it could also be the general counsel, the marketing department. So who do you connect with? Who can benefit from this information?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients are either very tenured, amazing consultants doing amazing work, or I am an advisor to a CEO or a C-suite leader that calls on me if they are making big decisions about the organization and want to know, well, what does the research say about, right now the Great Resignation is the big thing, right? So what does the research say about retaining people? What does the research say about hybrid workforce? That's a big one, right? Like flex workplace. Like what is the best way of creating a flex workplace? There's so many words right now when it comes to hybrid: teleworking, flex working, home-based working. Like, are they using the right terminologies? I'll be doing a 3-part white paper series on this particular topic. So information like that can inform how their policies are created and how they're making their decisions is really powerful, and ultimately can impact their employee and their bottom line. So absolutely. I say let's make informed decisions. That's my big thing. Informed, evidence-based decisions.
And also you mentioned the Great Resignation. So in order to keep employees, to retain them, to hire the right person, you also can benefit from this research, right?
Yeah, you can research within your organization. A lot of organizations do surveys and try to get feedback, which is wonderful. And then you can also now move your attention to the research, right? To the research, valid studies that are being done every day by researchers that you can possibly gain information from as well to inform, have a comprehensive decision-making model in your organization that's not just based off of what the leaders think we should do. No, it's based off the leader, the employees, the processes, and the research, right? So it's all very comprehensive. That really is the ideal way organizations should be making decisions. But sometimes, we're moving so fast, everything's changing so fast. I can understand at times decisions are made quickly. But, even if it's being somewhat intentional about getting the research and looking at it and comparing it, it could go a long way, save them time and money, big time.
Yeah, I can see how, and even during conferences and when we want to share information, share data with those attending those conferences, I can even see how they can benefit from the type of work that you do, and the sources of information that you have access to really provide good data, to really provide and make informed decisions, like you mentioned.
Yeah, so I'm not scared of the research, and I'm looking to teach people not to also be scared of the research, because it really is a whole new world of nuggets of information that can really change the trajectory of how people work in the workplace.
Yeah,
So,
and particularly for big organizations who are
mhm,
targeting, let's say, the Hispanic market, like you mentioned,
right,
having this information, it's also valuable just to see if do we go into this community, how do we
how
market
do
to
we
this
do it?
community,
Right,
of course, and it can save you a lot of time, pain, and suffering as well, just because now you have valid information as to how the customer really feels, right, and what they
correct,
truly need.
correct. See, you should come work with us, Carolina.
Absolutely. And you not only consult for firms, but also you are now teaching, like training the trainer, right? You're developing something along those lines.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about that. I know that you're still working on it, but just some
yeah.
information.
So shout out to all the IOs out there, right? The IO community is large and we're strong, and we just got accepted as part of STEM, which is wonderful.
Oh,
Yeah,
congratulations.
so we, all of us in the IO industry and that this field, I believe, need to understand the importance of the research and how to bridge that research. So I am coming up with what I call how to be a research translator, where I teach individuals about the process of researching, but then about how to translate it into practical solutions. So for example, if there's an issue on retention, we go into the research, look at retention, and then we find some of the solutions would be best practices that organizations can use. That would be what someone would translate from the research. Maybe a checklist that a leader can do, maybe even a training that someone can do. I teach the individuals how to go through the full process of how to look up research, how to synthesize it, and then let's do the translation. So I'm excited to be doing that in the next, I'll be in the couple of months that we'll be launching this training. But really to share this, I think it's an undervalued skill set that not many people, they probably have it, don't know they have it, but now they can put a name to it, and now they can really promote it when they're, going for a new job or for an interview and say, you know what, I understand and I know how to translate research. And then they might get the question of, well, what does that mean? And then they could go into the whole spiel. So
No, that sounds like a fantastic training, and I can see the benefit that can bring not only to other consultants, but also to people within organizations that are doing this type of work, that want to develop some type of training for their employees, for their teams, even for, I know you mentioned healthcare, but even to impact patients within the healthcare industry
yeah,
as well.
they've already, yeah, that's, like I said, the healthcare is very big on evidence-based practice, which is what a lot of this is. And they're doing it all the time. There's a lot of great research and studies that the healthcare field does. And so even tapping into those studies can be beneficial, because although their setting is in the healthcare, sometimes people are people. And, and the results can be applicable to another industry or another group of people. So yeah, so a lot of good stuff.
There's a lot of intersectionality there. And Patricia, Patty, how come did you make the decision to get into these different fields? What inspired you? And also my next question would be, is there something in your lifetime, something in your past, some life story that really shaped you into the researcher and the doctor that you are today?
Yeah, so I'm originally from El Paso, Texas. I am a Mexican-American, first generation. My father and mother were born in Mexico and came over. And so El Paso is a beautiful city. If nobody knows of it, and shout out to all of my El Pasoans, but we are predominantly Hispanic. There is an 85% so Hispanic. So everybody looks like you. So speaking of a story that shaped who I am today, is that I left El Paso after to go to college. After high school, I was out, and I went to a place where there were no Hispanics. Well, a lot of places outside of El Paso are that way. And so I ended up being the one, which I know we all have talked about always being, oh, I'm just the one minority. I understood and was now called a person of color. I was now labeled minority, and I was now put into that group, which was a very big shock for me, coming from a predominantly Hispanic. And I mean, I never even knew any of that stuff. So my experience of leaving my hometown and going to college was really impactful in that I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about how society views us as minorities. And so you have to learn how to roll with the punches and how to adapt and evolve in the environment that is what it is today. So with that, I knew I wanted to continue to be the one or one of the ones, which empowered me and really motivated me to go for my doctorate, because there is a small number of Latinas that have completed a PhD or doctorate program. And so I wanted to be part of that group. So I pushed myself to get informed, find out, how do I get there? What do I need? And then how do I finish? And so, so I think that experience out of college really, I think, catapulted my drive to continue being the one and paving the way for other Latinas to come, to feel like, oh, I can do this too. Because I saw other Latinas, wow, she's a Latina, she has a doctorate, I could do that too. And just to make us be known more and make all of our Latinitas know that they can do it too. I think that's a big part of why I finished and why I did it. For my daughter, for my nieces,
and that's so powerful, Patricia, you're a role model, right? And you're showing what's possible and that we can do it. Because sometimes we need to see those examples. Well, I believe that all the time we need to see those examples, and also know that it's going to there's going to be moments of fear. Do you have any of those moments where you're like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What am I doing here? Nobody understands me.
How do you manage?
I think like a lot of us who are put in those, especially as professionals in the workplace, we're put in that situation where how do you manage your culture and your workplace? How do you manage your experience? And when do you come in with your culture? Those are really tough situations. And I've learned from other minority leaders. I've learned from watching leaders in my own community, leaders in my family, of what is the best way of handling certain situations. But fear is always going to be around, right? We're always going to be fearful of something, right? I mean, COVID came and we were fearful of COVID.
Oh, yes.
Being at home with our spouses, we were fearful of that, so the fear part of life, I believe, is always going to be there, but it's what you do with the fear and how you take the fear with you and continue like leaning in is all up to you. So fear is always there.
And do you have a support system that helped you along the way during those years when you were doing your doctorate?
Yeah, it's a long journey. It's 4 or 5 years. It's a lot of time away from family, away from your responsibilities. So you do need a very strong support system that understands your journey. And some of my family members would be like, "Todavía no cabes?" And I'm like, "No, not yet. Still going. We're still in the process here. We're still moving. When are you going to graduate?" "Oh, okay." So there needs to be a lot of communication about the process of getting a doctorate or PhD. And like a lot of us Latinos, having family as part of your core support system, that is one of mine as well. I have an amazing family that supports me, that's there. And so, I mean, without that, and other, of course, colleagues and peers. So I always encourage Latinos, younger professional Latinos, to step out of your Latino circle and find those other mentors that are not of Hispanic descent, right? That are of other descents, and ask them for that mentorship, ask them for their advice. I do have a lot of other mentors that aren't Hispanic that have really informed my decisions today, and that I'm comfortable to say, hey, what do I do when this happens? It's great to have those other perspectives when you want to create, like talking about purpose, when you want to create your full purpose, you need to step out and go into the world and ask for other perspectives so that you have a more comprehensive way of looking at things. So I do have a great support system around me.
And I love that you mentioned that you have mentors who are not necessarily Hispanic. They're from different communities. You also are giving them an opportunity to learn about what we go through and how we see things, and they become our allies. So that's you're empowering people by doing that. Yeah, and it could be a little scary at first, right? But again, fear, like, do you lean in or do you lean out? Really, it's up to you. I say lean in. There's nothing you'll lose by leaning in, and you'll just learn. Go in with curiosity, go in with wanting to learn,
And so, yeah, I think that's a big part of my success is I'm not scared to go in and to learn and to meet
All in.
people and just, yeah, all in, like, let's jump in the pool. I may not have a safety, whatever.
No
like,
safety net, no nothing. Let's just get it done. Just like, what was
the
it?
body will float.
What was
Yeah.
it, Patty, that we connected in Miami? You were coming for a conference, one of the conferences, and we're like, okay, let's connect. Let's just make it happen. And we did. And that's how relationships evolve, and they become stronger and purpose-led more than anything. And I know you mentioned purpose. What is your purpose, Patty? What do you want your legacy to be? What does it look like? What's purpose to you?
When people talk about what is your purpose, I see purpose as an evolving journey that individuals take. We start as we're younger, there's a purpose when we're younger. As we become a teenager, there's a purpose, high school, and in each part and step of our life, we have a different purpose of what we're working towards that then determines ultimately your legacy. So right now in my life, I think my purpose is to be an educator. My purpose is to be an influencer, to be a mentor, to be a mother, and not to say that might change next year. We just never know, but I do always try to focus on what's happening right now. What do I have control over right now? And how can I make that at the best level that I can make it at, or be the best influencer or the best mentor? So it's really just to take the day and not take it for granted. One thing we've learned with COVID, with the unfortunate loss, is that life is short, right? Mm-hmm. And we need to really take time to self-reflect, think about the people around us, think about what do we love to do? I did that a lot before I started my business. I'm like, what do I love to do? Like, what can I do? They always say, find something you can do, and you could do it all day, right? And I thought, well, what do I could do all day? And it took
that you wouldn't mind doing if you were not getting paid for it.
Thank you. That's exactly the statement. Yes. That you wouldn't mind doing it and not getting paid for it. And so, yeah, you take time to do that. And I did. And I knew that, this whole research part was something I loved doing. And I could make it into something that not only benefits others, but I can evolve it and be creative in how I teach research and how I, help my clients. So purpose, I think, it's wonderful. You need to have purpose, but let's have purpose on a daily basis and just be grateful for the time that we have right now and make the best of it. That's the big thing. Make the best of it. Don't take it for granted. So.
And Patty, there's a lot of self-reflection as well when you say that you need people to really know what they want to do, who they want to become, what they want to do for the rest of their lives, right? Even though they can change their minds in a year from today. What about those people? What about the ones that maybe want to do something like what you do? What's your token? What's your piece of advice to those doing that, going through that self-reflection and understanding what they want to do?
Yeah, sometimes we can't move right away to what we want to do, right? Sometimes there's obstacles. Let's say you're in a job and you have to be in the job right now. You can't just go open your business because you have responsibilities. And yeah, that happens all the time. In your self-reflection and thinking about what you want to do, you also should think about, well, how can I get there, right? So go out, figure out a plan of, if you want to open your own business, just for example, want to open your business, well, how can I get there? What do I need? What is the financial the situation that I need to get? So you're right. It's not just the reflection. I think the reflection is very important, but it's also what is the action and the plan you're going to take to move forward and to get there. And know that you can do it. Know to ask for help. I think as Latinos, sometimes we don't ask for help. And Latinas, for some reason, well, I know a lot of it is, it's just part of the culture. Yeah. But ask for help, right?
You've done the research, right? Yeah, you know the numbers.
It does say it's very cultural script driven, meaning there's scripts in our psyche that have been part of just who we are based off of our ancestors and so forth. But step out, ask for help, find out the people that are doing what you would like to do and reach out to them as well.
That can always plan.
come up with a plan.
What you're describing is a strategy, and there's nothing wrong with having a strategy,
Right.
because it helps you be more efficient about what you're doing, right?
And it doesn't have to be fancy. Like people say, oh,
Right.
strategy. No, it doesn't have to be fancy. You can write it down.
It's
like
a plan.
yeah, just put it on Word. I mean, you know, put it down on paper and then start breaking it down little by little. Yeah, it's really, and if there's not any, if there people aren't sure what to do, that's okay too. I mean, we can go through times in our life where we're just living and enjoying and living and kind of rolling until something kind of puts us in, moves us away from our path a little bit, that
Right.
we kind of have to think, wait a second, what am I doing now? And that's okay too. I think sometimes we're a little hard on ourselves and we're like, we have to find purpose. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, and
Absolutely.
I think that's okay. I think that we should be okay with that.
And yeah, it's about being kind to ourselves too. It's giving ourselves grace, right? Like just like what we do with others. So thank you for reminding us of that, especially during these times that I see so many people struggling with their mental health or their situation, or families or people who they've lost, particularly after COVID, or now we're still in COVID times, but it feels like, you know, we've progressed, we've advanced, thank God, a little bit. So it's about being kind to ourselves too.
Yeah, and it takes intentionality, and it takes someone to really just, I always say, focus on what you have right now. You have, you know, look around you. You have home, you have food.
You're alive.
You're alive, right? So it's these they're simple little acts of thought that can take you can pull you out of a very dark hole if you are there or not, and ask for help. There's people around that are always willing, like yourself. Carolina was very, very gracious with her time and helping me be my guest at this conference in Miami. You know, we didn't even know each other, and you
I
were
just
so
went
wonderful.
for the free drinks.
Oh, that's right. I mean, you were so great in just saying, yes, I'll be there. And so, I mean, I didn't even know you, and you were gracious with your time. That it's just wonderful to see that we all are a community, and we do have allies that are wanting to be on our side as well. So let's reach out to those and let's partner up and really try to make a difference. So
absolutely, 100%. And then for the community out there and those who are interested in learning more about you, the work that you're doing, the programs that you're developing, maybe there's some work and consultation that you can do or your team can do for different organizations. It's endless possibilities. Or maybe they just need mentoring. They just need somebody to talk to. Obviously, you're a doctor in psychology, so you understand humans quite well, and you know, you have all that information there. How do they go about reaching out to you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn under my own personal profile of Dr. Patricia Delgado. You can go into my LinkedIn business profile, the Bridgify Group. I'm on Instagram as well, and information is there. You can DM me. Anybody can DM me. I'm happy to collaborate to especially for organizations that are needing research-based evidence and help from that end. I'm happy to collaborate and be able to assist in that particular part of their decision-making process. So
that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Patty, for sharing all your beautiful story, your experience, your expertise, the work that you're doing. And truly, it's a shout out to all those organizations who may be looking to learn more about what the Hispanic community is about. It's beautiful to know that there's resources available that reach out to you to have access to this information, right?
Yeah, and thank you to you and the Hispanic Star, who continues to do amazing work. I had a privilege to be in the first book of the Hispanic Star volume, which was amazing, and I am promoting, third, and so thank you to all the chapters out there like yourselves in Miami, doing all the great work of really influencing our communities and just making us better than we already are, but just giving us that lift that we need. So thank you to you all.
No, thank you. And thank you for being a role model and an inspiration. And thank you for mentioning about the book, because it's an invitation to everyone to be part of Hispanic Stars Rising Volume 3. Can you believe it's Volume 3? Soon enough, we're going to have books for kids, just talking about our stories, because our stories and our voices have a lot of power, and this is how we change the world, right? This is by showing our stories, right? I think we mentioned that you have to show what's possible.
Yeah, definitely. And know that you're not alone in your struggle. And that there's probably someone out there with this, not so much of the same story, but a little bit of the same story that we can lean on each other for. So yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you, Patty, for your time. It's been wonderful. We're going to upload it into the LinkedIn page, but so stay tuned for more. And then if you need to reach out to Dr. Patricia Delgado, please do so. She has wonderful resources that we all need to share within our own organization. So thank you, Patty, for the work that you do, and hope to see you soon.
Okay, gracias. Bye-bye.
Bye.